Yo, you guys know the drill. We're covering supports. I will say, because support is a category that is pretty small because of ER's history, where the game used to be a solos game, and having supports in a solos game was a little iffy. We don't have that many, so I added some characters that could technically be considered for other categories, such as Arda could be considered just a control mage, or Leon could just be considered a duelist. But I think they have some supporting capabilities within their kit, so I decided to add them into this video so they wouldn't be super short, and that way I can make some of the other videos that would be longer a little bit shorter. With that in mind, the usual disclaimer: I'm comparing characters within their own tier and among its peers, so when I say Leon's shielding is not really good, it's not that it's actually bad, it's just that compared to a lot of the other support characters, it's not really that amazing, right? So with that in mind, let's get into the video. Starting us off, looking at Charlotte is one of our newest support characters that got added into the game. The things that we're going to be looking for support specifically, it's going to be healing and shielding, as well as their uptime and their damage. I know it's a little bit weird to look at damage for supports, but you'll understand why we're looking at that in a second. So starting off with Charlotte. She's kind of in an average spot. I would say she's on a good overall support, and she's probably what you think about when you think of support. She's really good at that healing and shielding, especially on long fights. Unfortunately, she does not have very good CC. All she has is slow on her kit, and it's not going to be that great, which also means her engage is pretty bad. But her disengage is actually really good, especially when she has her ult. Now, when she doesn't have her ult, it's not that great, so her uptime will be mid because of that. But the rest of her abilities do have a low cooldown, which does give her that edge on longer fights. Her damage is overall pretty good, especially for support, but it's nothing to be amazed about. Finally, her mobility: she has dashes. They are targeted towards teammates, so it will be not the best, but she does have some mobility there. Moving on, we have Johann, who often gets compared to Charlotte because they share a pretty similar ult style where you use ult around your teammates and, make them immortal. On Johann's case, he can't do anything else while he's an ult, which does give him a little bit less mobility options there. As you can see, his mobility is pretty bad. All he has is speed ups, or he can speed himself up or his allies, so he really has to choose there. And his uptime's a lot worse because his abilities do have longer cooldowns. Especially without his ultimate, he is pretty vulnerable. On the opposite end though, he does still have pretty good healing and has better CC and potentially really good engage, looking for some roots with this Q. His damage is nothing amazing, especially compared to Charlotte. He doesn't have really like that low cooldowns to really go for big damage numbers, but the CC he provides, as well as utility, especially for some allies, giving them that tenacity or giving them that attack speed or movement speed up, can be really good. So Johann definitely still has a place within the supports and definitely has his pros and cons going for him. Especially recently, he's been getting buffed and buffed over and over. Next, we got Leni, who, as you guys can see, has pretty good things. The thing about Leni is that a lot of Leni stuff is gonna be very dependent on the Leni player. So if you see that the healing and shielding is really good, the engage is really good, the mobility is really good. The thing is that in reality, most of these things, it will all depend on how you use them. Leni's whole thing is, yes, if she hits everything and everything hits her allies and the enemy, she can do pretty decent damage, pretty good shielding, pretty good CC, but a lot of the times you're gonna have to pick whether or not it hits the enemy and it like CCs them, or it hits your allies and it shields or heals them. So it's all about the pros and cons. Or if you're a really, really good Leni player and you can hit everything together at the same time, it can be really good. But she does have ways to look for engage. She does have really good mobility. Her only thing that's not up there would be her damage, which is on the lower end, but she is a support after all. So, supporting your team is going to be what you want to do. So that is Leni. Once again, everything is good, but have the caveat that she has to pick what she wants to use her utility on. Everything won't be good at all times. Next up, we have Priya, who, as we can see, doesn't have necessarily nearly as much healing and shielding. She does still have pretty good shielding overall, but it's going to be somewhat dependent on how the fight plays out. But she is our first support that has really good damage. Priya, especially recently, is actually able to out DPS some mages, just if people decide to run into her damage. Especially when disengaging, Priya is a machine to work with. She's really, really good at disengaging. Her engage, though, did suffer after the charm got nerfed. Guitar skill got nerfed this preseason, and it's no longer a charm, it became a slow. So because of that, I did lower her CC and her engage to a bad and a mid. So with that in mind, and last but not least, mobility. I will say she is good. She's one of the characters that has really good mobility. While she doesn't have a dash, the movement speed up that she can provide herself and her allies can give a lot of teams a really sharp edge on others when it comes to moving as a team. Priya, really good character, lots of damage, lots of shielding, really good disengage. Really good character. Next up we got Theodore. There's another one of characters that has really good damage, but just like Priya, where their uptime is compromised by their ultimate, Theodore is going to be in a similar spot. While his abilities don't have super high cooldowns, especially if he's auto attacking the enemy through that screen, resetting his cooldowns over and over, dealing massive damage. If he can't hit someone, and his cooldowns become a lot longer, making his uptime a lot worse, and without his ult, which empowers him, giving him that extra attack speed to reset cooldowns even faster, then his uptime once again goes lower. Like Priya though, his mobility is pretty bad. Pretty much his only form of survivability outside of his very short route is going to be going into a bush and becoming invisible, but you could easily get revealed by a camera, making it not that great even with the speed up that you get when you do that. But on the good side, Theodore can provide you with a lot of vision, with sniper skills, really good healing from afar with his Qs to his team, especially in it's like very small corridors. It's very easy to hit your team with healing while also dealing damage to enemies and resetting, bouncing everything, all those autos through enemies. His CC, I did level it as bad, even though he has a root that can technically hit 3 people if landed properly. So I would say it's not the most reliable CC, and it's not that the CC itself lasts very long. I think his CC is very strong when you pair it with his engage, but alone by itself the CC is not as strong. So you could make the argument for it being mid. I just labeled it as bad because he really only has a 1 source of CC and it doesn't last very long. So if you look at it alone, it's not that good, especially compared to other supports. Next we got Arda. He's one of the first characters here that we're looking that could potentially be considered a mage more than a support, but he does technically still have a little bit of healing for his team and himself, even if it's not as great as others. I did label it as bad still, but it is there. He has really good CC, really good lockdown, which does provide him with pretty good engage, especially with that enhanced W. Rooting people and then keeping them in there depending on his team could be really good. Give him good CC, good engage. He also has that knock up to pair it with it. So overall, pretty good there. Damage is also pretty good. Once again, he could potentially be compared to a mage. So he does have good mage damage, but it will be dependent on him hitting abilities, of course, which in his case, outside of that engage with W, if the enemy doesn't get fully locked down, it could be a little bit hard. Some of his spells are not super fast. They do have a little bit of a wind up. So it does depend on whether or not you manage to hit your skills. And then uptime, I believe, while his ult does have a little bit of a cooldown, it is pretty short, especially compared to a regular ultimate. So his top time, I want to say, is pretty good. Overall, his spells don't have super short cooldowns, but they don't have super long ones, especially with his ultimate. His mobility is the one weird part because he's pretty similar to Priya, where he can enable his teams to navigate the map in different ways because he does have that portal with his enhanced E that his team can take together, allowing your entire team potentially to jump over walls and completely go back to safety. Especially if you're getting in a situation where you get third party, you can pop that enhanced E and get away from any danger over a wall. So it's definitely a super strong ability, especially in coordinated play, but it can be a little bit difficult compared to Priya because you do depend on all your team going over and taking that TP. So it's a little bit weird to play. You really depend on people being really aware of it. And outside of that, his self mobility outside of that little TP is not that good. So rating his mobility can be a little bit weird, but he can definitely do some very cool things with it. So do consider it. Next up, another one of those characters that could be considered for a different role. It's Leon. Once again, I listed his shielding being bad, but it's bad compared to other supports. It's not that it's bad by any means. It has actually pretty good shielding that he can shield his entire team around him while also giving him enhanced autos. So it's definitely a pretty good ability. For his CC, I want to say it's good, even though his knock up and his ult, especially his knock up, does have a little bit of cooldown and it could be potentially dodge. I want to say it's a really great ability because it can catch multiple people, especially his ult is super strong and it can definitely combo into some very mean scenarios for a lot of people. So definitely really strong CC, so I wanted to label it as good. Once again, he can definitely use it as an engage, so I'm definitely listing it up there. His uptime, I will say it's mid because outside of that ultimate, well, he can do a lot of damage like one, especially single target after that, punching people. He is definitely at his strongest when he does his knock-up combo into his ult, and without it he does lose a little bit of heat, but he can definitely still mess you up if you're not careful with him. Once again, he has a lot of damage, and he's really fast, especially on his water. He can definitely Q away, move around, jump over walls. Definitely really high mobility for himself. Next up, we got Silvia, another really high mobility character. Silvia, a bit of a shapeshifter. She's also a little bit weird to be here, but she can use that Q to heal her allies and regain back fuel. So I did want to put her here. She can definitely play to heal her allies and avoid any sort of poke from the enemy. As long as they're not eating too many spells, she can definitely play that supportive role there, as well as play a little bit of engage by going in forward with her bit of CC that she has with her knock-up, and go into backlines and completely devastate them with her high mobility and damage. Her uptime, she's a shapeshifter character, so she doesn't have an ult. Instead, she goes into her bike and has another set of abilities, right? So her uptime overall is going to be good. It's only going to be tied to her fuel, which is tied to hitting abilities, which one again, you can always queue your allies for fuel. So overall, I would say her uptime is amazing. She can definitely consistently win fights and consistently keep healing her allies if they are in range for her. So definitely a character that can potentially not be considered a support, but I wanted to include her here as I do believe she has some potential there. Once again, the support's pretty short and straightforward, but they're definitely important in the game, and we're definitely getting more support characters now that the game is a lot more squad centered. So we're gonna be looking at the future of more support characters, and hopefully by then I'm gonna be releasing individual characters guides rather than this group character guides. But for now, this is what we're doing. By the way, for those that participated in the poll on Discord, the how-to series on how to each character did end up winning the poll. The nearest quick vote was to do a mix of both of the how-to and the pros and cons. So I definitely do look up to continue the pros and cons series, but we're gonna try to push out some how-to series first. Once again, I'm going to be uploading every week or more if I can, and I wish I could tell you guys which character I'm doing next, but for now I'm still trying to figure that out myself. So if you leave me a comment telling me which character you want me to cover, they could definitely influence that decision. And once again, join my Discord if you guys want to participate on those polls that guide where my content is going, because I'm always hearing what you guys have to say. With that being said, that was it for me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.